Hi viewers, today's lesson is about the poem The Trees, written by Adrienne Rich. Adrienne Rich was a reputed American poet and an essayist. As a feminist, she brought the oppression of women to the forefront. Her first volume of poems was A Change of World. She received many awards, the most important being the National Award for her poems entitled Diving into the Wreck. Written in 1963 and published in her book Necessities of Life, this poem appeared at an important point in Adrienne Rich's development as a poet. In the same year, she moved to New York with her family and started to teach as well as throw herself into political activism, particularly anti war protests. Years later, she became an ardent feminist and wrote many poems and essays reflecting her strong political views and ideas. The Trees is a short symbolic poem focusing on the movement of trees that are initially indoors but seeking to escape to freedom in the forest. The trees represent nature but also the nature of being womanhood in particular. What makes this poem unusual is that the speaker's attitude towards the trees is intense. In the first two stanzas, there is a definite attachment as the speaker objectively describes the escapes of the trees to their new environment. In the last two stanzas, the poet wants to ignore this profound shifting of the trees, but paradoxically, mentioning her own aloofness brings the whole situation into sharper focus. The use of simile is clear as the branches of the trees are seen like newly discharged patients heading for the clinic doors. The trees, then, is in an extended metaphor. The trees are indeed people, specifically females, who are in need of healing or having been healed, are now ready for their true purpose, renewing the empty forest. The poet wants to show that everything has a deep desire to acquire freedom. It is necessary for growth and well being. Adrienne Rich's poem The Trees is a voice with a body engaged in activities and sensing intrusions that are not organic to the conventions of a poem. The poet tells us that how trees want to break out of the bondage of man made things and reunite with their natural surroundings. The message is that the forests have disappeared, so people have planted trees in their homes. Trees are revolting as they have lost their natural usefulness. No bird nests in them, nor do they spread their shadows to the tired people. And the poet observes that the trees in his house are moving outside into the forest, which has been empty for a long time. It is important to understand that the trees are not actually moving, but it has been used as imagery by the poet to show the destroyed forest and the false nature that humans have tried to keep in their houses. Since the forest outside was empty, no birds could sit on the branches of trees, no insects could hide in the trees, and sunlight could never disappear under the shadows of the trees. The poet feels that the empty forest will be full of trees by the next morning. It seems like the trees work silently in the night in order to complete their mission of getting free from the boundaries of the house. Therefore, they work all night to free themselves through the cracks on the veranda floor. The leaves of the trees try very hard to put a lot of pressure on the glass door so that they could break it. The small twigs have become very hard due to applying so much pressure to free them. The large branches of the trees try to move slowly from there and look like newly discharged patients from a hospital who become half shocked on coming to the outside world. The poem Trees by Adrian Rich is a symbolic poem which tells about the plants who want to escape the walls of the house and want to move into the forest. The trees are the symbolic representation of being women who want to move out of the enclosed walls of the society and move into the world of freedom. The poem Trees shows the conflict between man and nature. With the growth and development of society, human beings have used nature for their own benefit and caused a lot of harm to it. In order to use natural resources like forests, minerals, etc., men have forgotten the importance of nature. The poet wants to give the message that the presence of a few trees inside our homes does not become equal to nature. It is a false idea of nature. Real nature is outside, in the forest that we have already destroyed. The trees in the speaker's house want to break the walls of the house and move to the forest which has become empty. The birds can sit again on their branches. The insects can hide there, and sun rays can disappear under the shadow of the trees. This poem tells us how the trees want to break free from the walls that humans have put around them and go out into the forest. Dear viewers, the value we learn from the poem The Trees by A. Rich is that we should not cut down trees and clear forests for our selfishness, which would result in disaster. Disaster here means global warming and extinction of many species of animals without their natural habitats. Also, this poem suggests the idea of freedom. We cannot be satisfied by planting trees indoors. Symbolically, the poet's suggestion is that women should not be confined within the four walls of the home. They need freedom and a healing touch.